This is Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galeto. This is part 2 interview with Professor Hamdesa Tuso about Oromo land.
Emperor say, you Janoi, huh? So Janoi, huh? How come, Your Majesty, how come you replaced us, you clipped us, you took away everything we have in Arsi? The story is that as a way of appeasing him, the emperor allowed this little territory, Arsi, to remain. And Haile Selassie was a big actor in appeasing his competitors. Then we have the Bale movement started over land, fighting over land. And so for me, I grew up with this terror. And I'm fascinated by the fact that I have lived long enough that the same thing will repeat, the same policy will repeat during the Derg, now also during the TPLF regime. I'm also fascinated by the fact that a new young generation of Oromos across the board, from Welaga University to Dilla University, from Asada University to Direwara University, Ambo University, they say no more. This is absolutely fascinating. That's the history of Igal Amare policy.
How the Oromo land policy has been implemented during the reign of 6 Habesha regimes?
I'll be very brief on this, very fascinating. As I said, this has started with King Selassie. He started taking land in Shawa territory, like Wefifinde, terrorizing, looting, and launching, and killing massively. He had the guns, but all have a horse in the space. And then, of course, he died. And then Emperor Minik, after the third generation of his family emerged, was able to conquer the Oromos. Essentially, the way he did was, a lot of people don't understand, even Abasha don't understand this history, and outsiders don't understand. There was always this history of competing with Abasha communities. 3 Abasha communities, Tigra community, the North Amhara community, which is Gondor and Gojam, and the Shawa Amhara, which is a small community surrounded by Oromos. So Emperor Theodros dies and the village takes over. Johannes takes over. Then he dies, village takes over, okay? So it started with King Selassie, this Galamare policy. Then, as I said before, Milik expanded it, completely took away the land, Oromo land, okay? Then we come to Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie inherited the empire built by Emperor Milik. His main goal was to make sure that the Oromos would not rise up again. At the same time, he wanted to introduce some modernity to Ethiopia, but keep the feudal system. And then at the same time, he sent students abroad, also created a university, Haile Selassie First University. And then the young generation revolted against the feudal system. And then the land issue became an important issue across the board. During the 1970s, it became the marching theme, land for the tilters, so land for the farmers, people who live on the land. And so Haile Selassie, this is very important to remember. Every policy that the Abasha government makes with respect to the South is to marginalize the Oromo. Why? We always perceive Oromo, number one enemy, because Oromo is large in population, majority, history of bravery, also Islam. Therefore, this was a preoccupation of the Abasha. So every policy was to make sure that Oromo will not rise up again. Just in addition, every development that came up in the South was to make sure that Abasha power becomes permanent, because irreversible. That was their policy. Then with respect to the Derg, it's fascinating. The Derg took place. Remember, the movement to remove Haile Selassie was not started by the Derg, by the military. It started by students and by intellectuals across the board. They were fed up with the feudal system, and they really Many of them taught intellectual people like Professor Masud Waldemariam. They really wanted to get rid of the feudal system, let the land go back to the people. The Dutch took over the land, the government or power, and he said the land belongs to the state. So the southern land, which was taken by Emperor Menelik, did not go back to the people of the south, including Oromos. It went to the state. And then the tension began during the Dutch. The tension was, there was a Tigray Liberation Front, EPLF, there was Tigray Liberation Front, TPLF, there was Oromo Liberation Front, there was Sidama Liberation Front, and others. So the Dutch became isolated, became concerned, so they introduced villagerization, forced villagerization, forcing people to go to villages, uproot from their families, uproot from their villages, and they create these new units. People like me, other scholars interpret this as a process of changing the basic structure of our society. You uproot, you change this structure, people become disconnected. And then also there was Oromo Liberation Front. There was a fellow Oromo Liberation Front, so they transported new settlers from Wollo, from Tigray, famine-stricken area to the south. By resettling people in the south, they had two goals. One was to deprive TPLF human resources for its fighters. Second was to make sure that OLF would not have any place to hide in the south. Therefore, that's what they did about land during that time. Let's come to the TPLF. The TPLF is a mixture of all the above. It's a fascinating. That is, the TPLF introduced this land grab in a new form. It has the element that took place during Haile Selassie, giving lands to foreign companies. But it's massive, and it's really massive. And if you remember, Mada Zenawi, who became the prime minister, he told the West that we are going to invest in state development. He also told the West, there's a record. He said, we are going to choose Chinese models. Don't disturb us about your democracy. So with that, they went into full scale of taking land from the southern people, Gambelas, others, and then the Oromos. With respect to what happened in Fifine is this, that Fifine is located where the Oromo territory are the thinnest. Okay? By also the TPLF declared by its policy that Fifine should be a federal city. The rulers of Ethiopia are from Tigray. They are the ones who decide in Oromo territory what the city should be, meaning federal city or local city. So they go to massive uprooting, and then the Oromo start resisting. Here is my thesis. The ultimate goal of TPLF is this, that if they develop massively the Oromo territory or southern territory, then it would ensure that there will be no chance for the Oromos to rise up and then develop their own state. It's a form of permanent control. That was the purpose. Second, by giving these lands to companies, foreign companies, the TPLF has added another set of actors, stakeholders, so to speak. So should Oromo rise up to get rid of these, there will be a claim about human rights, their properties, and so forth. So this is a very systematic way of completely making sure that Oromo will not rise up again. So this is essentially, this is the stuff that the West don't understand. The politics of it is this, in other words. One is to make sure that the Oromo will not rise up again. Second, this resource has to be controlled. This resource has to be controlled by one particular Abasha, either by Amharas, that happened during King Menelik in Haile Selassie and Dadak, now by Tigrayans. If you recall, the Tigrayans have their own grievances. The grievances are, in summary, that Emperor Menelik gave away a territory to Italy, and then conquered the south, took these huge territories, became so powerful, but we don't share the spoils with the Tigrayans sufficiently. Therefore, we have to find a turn we can control Ethiopia so we can share goodies from the south. This is the Tigrayan grievance as well as their plan. So now it's a Tigrayan turn to take land from the south, amass wealth. And so this is the tension between the two Habesha groups, as well as also a war of terror against Oromos and other groups in the south.
What is the role of foreign aid and the goal of land grab? What is the relationship of the foreign aid and the land grab?
The foreign aid, the outsiders give foreign aid to Ethiopia essentially for two purposes. One is they hope that it will be used to improve the economy and feed the people, no more famine. That's one. They want Ethiopia to integrate a market economy. Second, also for geopolitics. Throughout the history of the Ethiopian Empire, geopolitics has been always very important. And they believe in the mythical Ethiopia. The Ethiopia never existed. They never existed. That entity that never existed. Ethiopia, the oldest state in Africa, 3,000 years, unified, politically solid, the leading entity state against colonialism. This is the memory they have. This is a mythical Ethiopia. Okay, the other Ethiopia that I never understood is diverse, where you have a colonial system. The Habeshas on top. The Habeshas also have grievances against each other. So the third thing they didn't understand was the Habesha parallel, which is vertical. In Habesha culture, there is no concept of horizontal relationship. You cannot participate, you cannot share, you cannot concede. We magzatno, we magazatno. Abro magzat. Okay? It's interesting, Malthus told Herman Cohen. Herman Cohen was the Assistant Secretary of African States, 1990s. He is the one who actually endorsed the idea of TPLF taking over. Out of 3 liberation fronts, he selected his group to take over. He claims that he didn't have any choice because the TPLF was already going to enter Al-Saba. They appealed to him and that they didn't want bloodshed, so they wanted him to approve their interest to Al-Saba. That is his claim. However, after that, there have been great chances for the American government to help the situation by insisting on human rights and democracy. They have not done it. All of a sudden now we have a new situation. You have got the Somalia crisis, the rise of Al-Shabaab. Originally they want to use Ethiopia against Sudan. Now we have got Al-Shabaab connected to Al-Qaeda. So this drama, during Haile Selassie time, they wanted to use Haile Selassie against the Soviet Union. The Derg switched sides. The Derg wanted to use the Soviet Union wanted to use Ethiopia against the interests of the United States. Now we have a new situation, the new Cold War. The new Cold War is a war against terrorism and also a war against the infidel on the African continent. So the foreign aid is to help to feed the poor, develop the economy, and so forth. At the same time, also for geopolitics. They never really understood that. The Ethiopians that never existed. Thus, we have this incredible crisis. The crisis is now, just like Haile Selassie regime, this government became the most hated regime of its time. The Derg subsequently, eventually, evolved to become the most hated regime of its time. Now we have the third cycle. I lived through all of this. Now we have this. I don't know what the future will be. And the issue is this. I saw on videos recently, the Oromo protesters are tearing down, they burned Malthus's park in some part of Shawa. They took down Malthus's pictures in Oromo territories. To the Oromos, Malthus is number one enemy. To the Tigrayans, he's a hero. The Tigrayans have the gun. The Oromos don't have anything. So you have really a very dangerous situation that can evolve to very serious genocide. Already the Habesha rule against Oromo has been genocidal, killing as many as possible, terrorizing, taking their properties, demonizing culturally. But this is now physically violent confrontation. We don't know. So this is the crisis. Look, TPLF is the beast that they courted because they wanted to get rid of the Derg. It is a beast that they adopted as a partner. It is a regime that fed with arms to its thieves, with funds, and also support diplomatically. Now, it does not know what to do with it. Finally, I want to say something about Malda Zenawi. I compare him to Ahmad Chalabi. Ahmad Chalabi was an Arab, a Shia from Iraq. A brilliant man. He had masters in mathematics from MIT, PhD from University of Chicago, a rich man, and he lived in Jordan, and he embezzled the bank there in a kind of for 30 million. He was accused, convicted in his absence. And so he campaigns for a long time to get rid of Saddam Hussein. He campaigns to the American government. And he tells them that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. So he smuggles out a bunch of Iraqis, soldiers, others, to testify in front of American authorities. Believed him. They invaded Iraq. They looked for weapons of mass destruction. They were not there. So they asked Ahmad Chalabi, "Why did you do to us?" He said, "Why are you fussing? I mean, after all, you removed the dictator. You can help us to create a democratic Iraq." The rest is a story. You know the story, okay? Malda Zenawi was Ahmad Chalabi of Tigray. Smart, charming, eloquent. So he told the Americans, we are going to introduce democracy. We are going to make state develop. Don't worry, they swallowed it. Now we have this incredibly dangerous situation.
Thank you, Professor, for taking the time and explaining about land, the Oromo land, the policies, and the TPLF goals. We appreciate your input, Professor, as always. Thank you very much for your time.
Night, bye.